What I like best about the Terry and Jesse show is that it revives my hope in men to be godly men.
It's a really good show because it's relatable to family life, daily life. It's encouraging. It's like cheerleading also for Catholics. But number one, the reason I like it because you guys aren't afraid to speak the truth.
You are both the most compassionate hosts I've ever heard. And as a Jewish convert, I am a much better informed Catholic. Thank you, Terry and Jesse.
I just think it's the best thing that we have here in LA. It's awesome. I'm hooked.
Welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show. We invite you to this holy hour of power. Now, we're two Catholics with PhDs in common sense. Hey, this is Common Sense Catholicism. Our program is not right versus left. Folks, it's right versus wrong. And this is actually Catholicism for the blue-collar man. We want to encourage you. We want to enlighten you. And I want to offer you solutions. And I want to thank you for taking the time to join us again at the Terry and Jesse Show. As you know, Jesse is moving to Phoenix, Arizona, so he'll be out for today, but he'll be back tomorrow, so keep him in your prayers. Today's topic is on assisted suicide. Wait a minute, Terry, why are we talking again about assisted suicide? I thought that, that was 2 weeks ago we talked about that and we're done. No, this is a serious, very serious problem in our culture. And right here in California, SB 128 is heading for the assembly where opponents like us, people of goodwill who know the sanctity of life, are hopeful the measure is going to be defeated. Now, I can't think of a better doctor to bring on than Dr. Vincent Fortanasce, who's a neurologist. He's written many books on different topics of neurology, but he has made a personal commitment to really work hard on trying to stop this bill 128, which is SB 128, which is the death with dignity. Now, that's what they call it, but you know what it really is? It's killing people, and that's against the commandments. And so we're here to fight the good fight for as long as we can. Because you know what, folks? 100 years from now, 100 years from now, who do you think is going to be most important? Who won the NBA Finals or those who have helped protect unborn and longborn? Right now we're talking about the longborn. And I'll give you this comment, then I'll let the doctor come on. We're getting him on the line right now. Dr. Vince, he's going to be at our chapel here in Covina on September 26th for a whole day on the euthanasia, protecting the longborn lives of people. And I think you'll be very impressed. So that's going to be coming up. But I say this because we are dealing with a serious problem. I ask people all the time, I say, well, if we don't have customers, how do you run your business? Well, we're killing our unborn and the longborn. And that's an issue that I think all of us want to deal with. I said yesterday that I call you my friends, my family. I said that yesterday. You're my extended family on the radio all over the country. Jesse and Terry have people. And I want to say this. I call you friends because the most beautiful gifts are invisible, such as the air for our lungs. And here's a big one. Grace for our souls, the life of God in us. And the devoted friends of our radio broadcast. You, I consider you my friend. To further this intimate bond between us, may these broadcasts flower and blossom in the eternal triangle. What is that? You, me, and through God. That is what I mean when I call you my friend. And I'm going to say that Dr. Vince is my friend because we are basically trying to promote the sanctity of life from conception to natural death. And I'm going to be asking him some tough questions that I think you're asked at work or at home. And I think when you're done with this broadcast, you're going to say, wow, I learned a lot. And now I can distinguish between euthanasia, physician-assisted suicide, mercy killing, and murder. What's the difference? There isn't one, but we're going to ask the good doctor these questions because I think he's going to help us articulate a gospel of life. And I can't think of a better person to have on the air than Dr. Vincent when it comes to the sanctity of life. He's done so much for that. But before I invite Dr. Vince on the line, I want to tell you, I'm going to ask him some questions about his own personal life because I want you to get to know him like I've been able to know him through the phone. Now you're going to get to know him on the air. So I want to welcome Dr. Vincent Fortanasce. He's a medical doctor. Dr. Vincent, welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show.
Hi, thank you very much, Terry.
Well, thank you for joining us in your busy
My
schedule.
privilege.
No, it really is. Dr. Vincent, what before we get into the issue of euthanasia, what is it and things like that, can you tell our listeners a little background? And I know this might sound like I'm patting you on the back, but my friend, God has used you in a very powerful way for good. And I'd like to ask you to just tell a little bit to set the stage of who you are, married with kids, where school did you go to, your faith, how important your Catholic faith is to you. And please, don't be bashful. Tell us, because we want to know you. Go ahead, Dr. Vince. Tell us your background.
Well, I think that I always start with my mother.
Mm-hmm. That's a good
my
thing.
mother said the Rosary day and night, and so I think somehow that affected me.
Amen.
And, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a priest because I thought that, God had all the answers.
Sure.
And I just had to look at my parents to know that. And so I actually studied to be a priest for 5 years.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden I came to the conclusion that maybe God didn't have all the answers and that Freud did. And so I actually saw my cousin. My cousin said, gee, you want to be a psychiatrist, you got to be a doctor first.
Yes.
So before you know it, I was in medical school.
Wow.
And, I did a residency at Yale, and I did another residency at USC, and did an internship with one of the Cornell hospitals, affiliate hospitals. And so, before you know it, I was a doctor, and I was finishing up my residency in psychiatry.
Yes.
And all of a sudden I realized that Freud didn't know what he was talking about.
Good.
And I got into, I came out to USC to do neurology because I said, well, at least man knows what he's talking about. And so I'm going to go into the hard science of neurology. And then I got out into practice and I realized, when we were dealing with death and dying, that, it really was God who had the answers.
Wow.
And so I did almost a 360, going from, to religion, to psychiatry, to, just basic science, and all of a sudden realizing that, hey, it's much more complicated than that.
Wow. Well,
and so, I've had the good fortune to, be in practice for, over 30 years, and, I do neurology primarily, but also, I do a lot of psychiatric treatment of myself. And
I love it. That's Dr. Vince, I'm chuckling listening to you because I think our listeners are also laughing, going, wow, this guy made, you talk about a 360, you're right. But you also had a very special opportunity back when he's now Saint Pope John Paul II, when the Pope had Alzheimer's disease. You're an expert on that. You've written a book called The Anti-Alzheimer's Prescription. I've got it here in my hands, and I'm reading it going, wow, this is good stuff. But the book is great. I would suggest people to get it. But I want you to tell a little bit, and I'm going to twist your arm. How in the world did you end up being the Pope's doctor at the end of his life? I'd like to know that.
Yeah, well, I was a member of the Knights of Malta, and what they were doing in the Jubilee year of 2000, we were attending the clinics at the various different basilicas, to help the people, because there was millions of people there, if they had any illnesses, we would actually treat them.
Sure.
So one night, the Pope was giving a mass, and all of a sudden I saw him walking on the altar, and I said, he has Parkinson's.
Wow.
And it just happened to be one of his secretaries who had gotten to know him years ago, looked at me and says, we know that there's something wrong with him, but no one's doing anything. Could you see him? So I said, what, are you kidding me? I said, it's more than privilege, And so I just let it go, and all of a sudden the next day I'm at the clinic, and these Swiss guards with their lances and everything else pointing at me come in and say, we're taking you somewhere. They don't tell me where they're taking me. And I get marched across the square, the Vatican Square there, over to a room, and guess who's there?
You got to be kidding. The Pope.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So what? Now, Dr. Vince, we have to take a quick break, and then I'm going to get into the questions on euthanasia. But that is I want to hear the remaining part of that story. Folks, when we come back from the break, we'll let Dr. Vince say what the Holy Father said to him. I think this was in the early 2000s. So I'm going to put them on hold until the break, which is another minute. But before we break, I want to encourage you. Yesterday, because Father's Day is right around the corner, it's this Sunday, I couldn't believe it. I was giving away Bishop Sheen's Life is Worth Living MP3 disc. It's 50 half-hour shows, over 24 hours of Bishop Sheen on the fundamentals of the faith. Give this to your dad. Give it to your husband for Father's Day. And the phone's rung off the hook. And all I ask is people to give a donation. What? Yeah, that's all. It's $100 worth of product. I'm sticking my neck out. But you know what? If one dad gets that set and it changes his life to turn more to Christ, it was worth it. So if you want to get that, it's just today, 877-526-2151. That's 877-526-2151. And folks, when I give away product, what I do is I put it on the website so you can look at catholicrc.org and you can pull last week's giveaway. I think Saturday's giveaway, we gave out around 700 or 800 copies of What Every Catholic Needs to Know About Hell. Well, you're not too late because you can go online and get that. Go to catholicrc.org or call 877-526-2151. And don't forget, we've got the Women's Conference coming up August 22nd here at the Sacred Heart Chapel. The conference will be with Dr. Carol Younger. She's tied in with the St. Paul Center with Scott Hahn. I'll be there talking on 10 things women need to know about their husband. And we're going to have a talk on femininity, the Pope John Paul II by Mary Barber. So don't turn the dial. When we come back, we'll let Dr. Vince tell us his story of how he's with a doctor for St. Pope John Paul II. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. I have Dr. Vincent talking to us about euthanasia, but I asked him to tell us a little bit of his personal story. And before the break, he was talking about how he actually became a doctor for St. Pope John Paul II at the end of his life. And Dr. Vincent, can you finish the story, and then we'll get to our questions about euthanasia. But I found this very fascinating. Go ahead, my friend.
Oh, well, but the Pope was there with his breviary right by the window, and when I went up to see him, he smiled at me, but moving very, very slowly because of the Parkinsonism that he had.
Yeah.
And I began to examine him, and he asked me why I was there. And I started bemoaning all the problems with stem cell research and all the things that were about to occur in modern medicine, and how we would be making designer babies and we would be doing euthanasia, et cetera, et cetera. And I told him, I said, and no matter what I do, no matter what I say, nobody will listen to me. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me, and I remember him putting his hand on mine.
Wow.
And looking up and saying, "Doctor, nobody listens to me either.
Oh,
that does not mean you should give up trying."
I love it. What, Dr. Vincent, that is awesome. That is awesome. That's a great story.
And I never forgot it.
Oh, you couldn't. Well, Dr. Vincent, that's awesome. I want to get right now into the euthanasia issue. What is euthanasia? For those who are listening, going, what the heck are you guys talking about? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, euthanasia is the active killing of an individual who would otherwise not die. Mm-hmm. And so this is an individual who could have any type of disease and, maybe in pain, maybe worried, maybe anxious, and they've requested to have their life ended. And so the doctor goes in, or whoever would go in, the reason why what they're doing is to actually end this individual's life.
Wow.
Right? It's not to decrease pain, et cetera. I mean, that may be the underlying reason, mm-hmm. but in fact, the act is of ending an individual's life, and that is taking into one's own hands life or death. And, of course, the Hippocratic Oath has clearly told us that physicians are there to help and to never do any harm. Now, we can't stop people from committing suicide, but most often, and 99% of the cases or more, these people are usually terribly depressed. They have no friends. They have no one to put a hand on them and say, "Hey, I'll be there for you."
Right.
Because those people who do have friends, who do have family, who do have someone who's interested, like a physician, never request to be killed.
Yeah. Doctor.
And so that's very different than withdrawal of life supports.
Of course.
Or, that is a person who is on a respirator and has had a terrible head injury. And the only reason why they're still alive and they have no chance of ever living is because of a respirator. Now, that is completely permissible. And that was actually fostered by the Catholic Church with, we should not be using extraordinary means.
Exactly.
And we should allow natural process to occur.
Right.
And that is where the American Academy of, the American Medical Association clearly states that euthanasia, assisted suicide, or what they call it here, options in dying, because they don't like the word euthanasia, they don't like the word suicide,
of course.
So they use the word option, which I think is trivializing, killing people, a lethal dose. I mean, that's an option.
Yeah.
But we want to try to help people understand that this is a serious medical decision making.
Sure.
And we must consider it as such, and we should not have politicians about to pass a law. You got to remember, this is not the populace. This is not a vote of the people. This is strictly and unequivocally only politicians making this decision.
Amazing, but let me back up a little bit for those who don't know what the Hippocratic Oath and where it came from. Would you just share with our listeners that, I know that my doctor friends that are my age all made that promise. Now, I understand they're not doing it, but can you give our listeners a little background on the Hippocratic Oath and what it is?
Yes, back in 450 BC, that would be before Christ.
Yes.
One of the main assassins in society were the physicians. These were the people who people would pay in order to get rid of the people who they did not like.
Wow.
And so physicians, rather than being trusted, were strictly mistrusted. Hippocrates came along, and he was a physician, and he wrote an oath that all physicians should never do harm, never give a lethal medication, and should always try to do something good. But if they couldn't decide what to do, they should do nothing.
Right.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
But they should never do harm. And so this was called then the Hippocratic Oath. And from there on in, Western medicine and the position of physicians rose to a very great level, primarily because the physician now is always the patient's advocate and never an individual who would do something surreptitious or would actually kill or do harm. Now we're about to reverse 2,500 years of Western medicine.
Amazing.
And it's going to be done by politicians.
Wow.
And I always say, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow.
You're not kidding.
When it is prescribed by a politician.
Yeah. Wow.
And do they really know what they're doing? I'd like to just read something.
Sure,
if you
please do.
mind,
Please
okay?
do. Please do.
By the way, this is from the New York Times. And let me read this to you. It says, "It shall be made possible for physicians to end the tortures of the incurable patients upon request in the interest of true humanity." And the Times article goes on, as according to the present plans of the Ministry of Justice, the incurables would be determined not only by the attending physician, but also by two official doctors who would carefully trace the history of the case and personally examine the patient. In insisting that euthanasia shall be permissible only if the accredited attending physician is backed by two experts who so advise, the ministry believes a guarantee is given that no life, and I don't say a guarantee that no life, still valuable to the state, shall be wantonly destroyed.
I'm sorry.
And then it goes on to say that the patient himself shall expressly and earnestly ask for it. And in all cases, any type of desire or from relatives who are acting out of motives not in their best interest would be excluded. So it really sounds like something very, very, this is written from the New York Times,
Unreal.
October 8th, 1933.
You got to be kidding me.
October 8th, 1933.
Is this microphone
if
on?
we just turned around the Ministry of Justice and we took out the word of euthanasia, at least they called it what it was, and we used options in dying instead, a complete fabrication of anything that is truthful, right? You would say, oh my gosh, this is exactly what was written in October 8th, 2014, or maybe June 17th, 2015.
Wow.
But it isn't. And do you know what happened on October 6th,
no, tell
1939?
Me. Tell me.
In October 6th, 1939, began the beginning in 6 months, 76,211 people in insane asylums, as they called them at that time, were euthanized without their permission.
And where was this done?
This was done in Nazi Germany.
So isn't it interesting, the more things change, the more things are the same? I mean, what? We're all shocked to hear this, right? But it's happening in our own time now, Dr. Vince. And I mean, I'm just listening to you and going, what amazing. Dr. Vince, here's my question, because I think our listeners, and if our listeners have a question or two, I've got many of them, but if you do have a question, call 888-526-2151. That's 888-526-2151. And don't forget, we're giving away for Father's Day Archbishop Sheen. I believe he was a prophet of our own time, and he did Life is Worth Living, which is his convert course of 50 half-hour shows. It really will build your faith up for Dad, for anyone who listens to this. I don't normally give that big of a set away. Just give it away. Just give us a little donation to cover your shipping and the handling, and you can get that for Dad for Father's Day. We'll ship it out tomorrow. You just call 877-526-2151. That's 877-526-2151. The good Dr. Vincent Fortanasce, he's agreed to come to our Sacred Heart Chapel September 26th this year to do a seminar on the end-of-life issues. And I guarantee you, if you come to that seminar, you're going to learn a lot. We're just doing this in about an hour and less than that because we're talking about his own background. But I think that we all need to learn about this issue really deeply because, you know, if we're not part of the solution, we're part of the problem. And that's why I want to encourage you, if you like what we're covering right now and you want to listen to it and send the program to your friends, you can go to the website, saintjoe.com, and get the podcast of this show and send it to your friends. And again, before we break for our hard break, I want to encourage all of our listeners to come to our Women's Day of Recollection, the women and their daughters. This is going to be a great day for women because we're going to be talking about things that are important to you. For example, 10 things women need to know about their husbands that they won't be told. I'm going to talk on that. Believe it or not, I've got that experience. Dr. Carol Younger is going to be talking about keeping your kids Catholic. Boy, was that important in a day today. Dr. Carol's got a PhD in education, and she's got really an on-fire education on the faith through Dr. Hans St. Paul Center. She's also going to talk about ensuring our children receive a good Catholic education, which is critical today. If you want to join us, call 877-526-2151 or go to the website catholicrc.org. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk with the good Dr. Vincent regarding euthanasia and how we can help stop this SB 128, at least make a heroic effort, because that's what we need to do. That's what I'm calling everybody to do. So don't turn the dial. I know this is not a popular topic, but it's something we need to deal with. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. I have Dr. Vincent with me. We're talking about euthanasia, Bill 128, SB 128, and how we can help prevent it from passing by our prayers and by our actions. Dr. Vincent, I have a good question. We talk about ordinary and extraordinary means. You know, in other words, what is the withdrawal of life support and letting people die when they have extraordinary means doing that? Why is this not considered euthanasia? Can you make the distinction that the church teaches, please?
Yeah, because not using extraordinary means allowing things to happen under natural process. Mm-hmm. So it means the person will die a natural death. And so a person who is being kept alive artificially through a respirator is therefore allowed to die as they would if we did not have respirators. Now, it's different if the respirator is really just keeping a person alive because they've had a bad head injury and they will recover, and we're just, giving type of treatment, and it's just something temporary, but not if it's something that's incurable and an individual is allowed to die. And also a person who may have cancer and says, hey, I just want pain relievers, and I want to go naturally. I don't want to undergo radiation and chemotherapy, et cetera. And as long as it's reasonable, so unreasonable, of course, would be, say, a 28-year-old woman who has 3 or 4 children, then that person really should stay alive as long as they can for their child's sake.
Yes.
So that would be determined maybe unreasonable. But another individual who does not have other people dependent on them, can make that reasonable assumption that, hey, I don't want to have to go through all these medical treatments. Just keep me without pain. And, of course, most people fear one of the major reasons that pushes people to these assisted suicide is because of tremendous fear of pain, et cetera.
Sure.
But, clearly the American Academy of Neurology and the American Medical Association, we know all pain can be treated, even if the need for terminal sedation is needed. And that is giving medications that really puts the person, in an unconscious state to a certain degree.
Right.
And, they get food and fluid and everything else, and they're able to die a natural process. Because one of the major difficulties that people don't understand is that when man is given the right, like it was in when they were talking about this article in the Times in 1933, you saw how they were making all these rules almost identical to the rules of SB 128 here in 2015.
Wow.
I mean, the identical criteria.
Unbelievable.
And we saw how 6 years later they were all thrown out.
Yes.
And in fact, it led to the Holocaust.
Yeah. Wow. Dr. Vince, this is scary times, but I'm going to ask you the big question of the day. How the heck can we as Catholics and other committed Christians be part of the solution to this mentality of this culture of death that Pope John Paul II talked about? What can we do?
Well, very, very important, because we are in a near and present danger.
Mm-hmm.
That means that at present time, this legislation has already passed through the Senate along party lines.
Yeah.
And that is those individuals who are Catholic. In fact, one of the people who has proposed this, one of the main proposers of this, is Catholic, went to a Catholic university, a Catholic high school, and he is the proponent of it.
Scandalous.
Brittany Maynard also went to Catholic high school and Catholic college. And she was the individual who was used as the poster child for this.
Yeah.
And so what we really need to do is, number one, understand that this is going to the Assembly right now and is going to be adjudicated within the next month. We need everybody, especially if they're in Los Angeles, to go to their Assembly people, call them up, please. Call them, send them letters, do anything you possibly can to let them know that you are against a law that would require doctors, or if doctors are asked, to give a lethal medication.
Mm-hmm.
That this is not in the best interest of humanity. And one of the biggest things is that people have to understand who truly will be in control. It's not going to give increased control to the patient. It's not going to give increased choice to the patient. It's going to give increased choice to the insurance companies.
Wow.
Because, I myself was told that I had an incurable cancer. In fact, I was told by 2 of my very close friends they had never heard of anybody surviving over a year with it.
Wow.
And that was 12 years ago.
Praise God.
But the difference between somebody else and me was that within 2 days, I was on the operating table. I had the best people in Southern California and possibly the country see me within a 48-hour period.
Wow.
You know what happens to people who are on Medi-Cal?
No.
People who are on HMOs?
No.
If you're on Medi-Cal, it may take you 3 or 4 months to get in to see a patient. for the patient to actually get in to see the doctor. Then when the doctor orders something, there's a better than 50-50 chance it's not going to be allowed.
Wow.
And so an individual who is told that, gee, they have cancer, it may take 6 to 8, 9 months before anything is ever done. And here they are worried. I mean, I will tell you how anxious and how frightened I was. And I would have to figure that people who maybe don't know as much as I do about medicine would even be more so.
Yeah.
And when they have to look at, when they're uncertain if they're going to be in pain or what is going to happen to them,
mm-hmm.
How fast do you think they're going to say, hey, just give me that pill and let me end it?
Yeah, I bet.
And the scary thing about it is
Yes.
that these people are frightened, they're depressed, they're anxious. Do you know, in Oregon, do you know how many people who have been euthanized saw a psychiatrist?
How many?
2%.
What?
98% of the people never saw a psychiatrist.
Unbelievable.
I mean, I can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
And they use Oregon as being an example
Yeah.
of this method of, as being a valid method to have here in California.
Yeah.
The most important thing and the most diabolic of all of it is that, the medicine, we use the experimental method, and that is any type of treatment that we get, all right? What we do is before it's instituted, we make sure it's safe, okay? We know this is not safe because it's designed to kill people,
Right.
all right? All right, so we'll throw away that, all right? And the person wants it. Now, it does not require any psychiatric treatment. In fact, even the family does not even have to be notified. An 18-year-old girl or boy could request to be euthanized, say it once, and then 2 weeks later say it again and write a note and have two physicians. One could be a pathologist who doesn't even know how to examine people
Right.
to be the second opinion,
Shocking.
and a physician who maybe had never seen the patient before. And the only time the parents would ever know that their child was euthanized was when they received the death certificate.
That's unbelievable. Is this microphone?
And on the death certificate, it wouldn't even have the fact that they were euthanized.
Unbelievable.
It would have maybe the underlying illness.
It's shocking. Dr. Vincent, we're going to ask a question after our next break, because I hear people tell me this all the time when I talk to people in my real estate business that I have. Does SB 128 give more patients choice and control? They say, oh, yeah, it does. I'd like to hear from you on that one. Folks, you're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. Jesse's out for the day. He'll be back tomorrow. But we have Dr. Vincent here talking about what they call the California State Suicide SB 128. And as he mentioned, it's now heading for the Assembly, where opponents like us are hoping the measure will be defeated. The way it's going to be defeated is with your prayers and actions. It's a combination. We need to get a hold of our legislative people and let them know what our thoughts are on this, because it's not going to go away. We can't put our head in the sand and say, not my problem. It will be our problem. And that's why I have Dr. Vincent here talking about this. And when he comes back after the break, I want to know what SB 128 really gives when it comes to patients, choices, and control. You talked a little bit about, an 18-year-old kid who can basically say, hey, I want out. I feel depressed today, and I write a letter, and I'm done. And then the parents get a notice with his death certificate that he's no longer here, and it doesn't say why even on the death certificate. This is a crazy world we're living in, and I always encourage our listeners, stand up for the truth. You have common sense and speak up, because this is how evil abounds when good people do nothing. So when we come back, I'm going to have Dr. Vincent answer that question about SB 128. So our listeners, you, my friends, are going to be able to articulate to your friends at work, at home, and point out why we have to stand up for the truth, because life is short and eternity is forever. As I mentioned, 100 years from now, what do you think is going to be more important? Talking about SB 128 on the radio, or should I have talked about the NBA playoffs? I think you know the answer. Again, folks, I'm encouraging you in September 26th, mark your calendar. The good doctor is going to come to our Sacred Heart Chapel to talk about the end-of-life issues. He's going to educate us more because this isn't going away. California is dealing with it, but other states also are going to have to deal with it. We need to fight the good fight, and I'm going to encourage you to come to that conference at the Sacred Heart Chapel, September 26th. Also, I'm going to encourage you to come, mom and their daughters, to the Women's Day of Recollection coming up August 22nd. That's at the Sacred Heart Chapel. If you'd like to join us, you can call 877-526-2151. That's 877-526-2151. If you want to get the free giveaway, which is Archbishop Sheen's Life is Worth Living, this is the solution, I believe, to help people fight the truth, is know the faith. Fulton Sheen will give that to you. 50 half-hour shows on one MP3 disc. Normally it sells for $100 at Catholic bookstores. It's yours. Just give us a little donation. Call 877-526-2151. Get Archbishop Sheen in your hands so that you'll be better prepared to help people and you get to heaven. That's 877-526-2151. Don't turn that down. When we come back, we're going to answer more questions on SB 128. Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. We have Dr. Vincent, who's an expert on the euthanasia issue. And before I ask Dr. Vincent the question about the SB 128 regarding insurance companies and the government and issues, who's going to be taking control of our health, I do want to mention one more thing. Before we close for the day, I think I talked to Dr. Vince off the air about the Rosary. He's a neurologist. And what the Rosary does for the mind and heart and the whole healthiness of a person, meditation and prayer. And so, Dr. Vince, I can't let you go without sharing that because I told everybody yesterday that we need to pray the daily Rosary for world peace and implement Our Lady of Fatima's peace plan. So I think, but before I ask you that, give me your take again, because I want to know the issue of insurance companies, the government. Who's going to be taking control? I know you know the answer. It's kind of ambiguous of how this is all going to be implemented. Go ahead.
Yeah. What simply this is, option in dying, and that is the patient being able to get a lethal dose.
Yeah.
With these so-called guidelines and safeties of 2-week waiting period and having two physicians agree on a person being terminally ill, which all physicians will tell you is impossible.
Yeah, right.
Is sort of ludicrous. I mean, as far as and it's very, very similar to what you saw in that article from Time magazine in October 8, 1933.
Sure.
The most important thing to understand is that it is going to be the insurance company, it is going to be the government who's under tremendous amount of strain because of the Medicare and the aging population,
right,
to get rid of these people who will be considered a burden on society. And the people who think that they're going to have increase in choice are going to be the majority of the people who are on Medicare, who are on governmentally supplied medical care, and who are on HMO care, who are going to be the ones who are not going to have a choice.
Right.
And it is going to be actually the insurance companies who indirectly will institute the end of their life.
Wow.
Like, give you an example. One of the things that we know is that those people who are healthy, it cost the HMOs back in 2007 about $3,500 a year to give medical care to those individuals. If they should have had cancer, it went well over $80,000. So how long do you think it's going to take their physicians, or I should say their CEOs of those HMOs, to tell their physicians that the best cure is a terminal cure?
Yeah.
Because it is economically best.
That's scary.
For the insurance company.
Yeah.
And the exact same thing with the government. It'll be in time, it'll become that the thing that distinguishes us from all other society is that we in the United States and in the Western countries and even in Eastern countries always believe that the greatest people of those civilization is when the strong take care of the weak.
Well said.
The disabled, those who are dying.
Yeah, of course.
And it is barbaric societies who kill them.
Yep.
And that is exactly what they're trying to do under the guise of compassion. No different than this article, which says it shall be made possible for physicians to end the tortures of the incurable patients upon request in the interest of true humanity. And who wrote this? It was the Nazi Party.
Wow. Dr.
Under the German Penal Code.
Wow. Man,
and if you look at the criteria, two physicians voluntarily asked for, preventing families from doing anything surreptitious. I mean, this is exactly what we're seeing 100 years later. And have we learned from our past?
History.
And it's clearly been stated that those who do not heed history are bound to repeat it. And that's exactly what's happening now.
Absolutely. Last question, but before I ask you about Canada and the Netherlands and what's happening with euthanasia there, I need to ask you this big question because I know our listeners would like to know. Can you tell us the effect of meditation, because you're a neurologist, on the mind regarding the praying of the Rosary? You've got a source of a research paper on that. Could you share that with our listeners?
Yeah, well, without a doubt, one of the things that we have found both through functional MRI studies and other studies evaluating blood and cerebral spinal fluid is that those people who meditate, all right, that is saying the Rosary, for instance, get a marked increase. It stimulates parts of the brain, especially the inferior temporal lobe, that increases the amount of serotonin, dopamine, and noradrenaline, which increases the number of brain cells and increases a person's feeling of well-being. And these individuals have half the incidence of Alzheimer's disease, and it is done through meditation. Meditations, for instance, as you had mentioned, the Rosary is one of the ways.
Wow. I just find that so interesting. That was the nugget, folks. I had to wait until the end of the show to share that with you. I got excited. I hope you did too. One last question I have. What has happened in Canada and the Netherlands regarding euthanasia?
Yeah, what happened in Canada and what has happened in the Netherlands is almost exactly what happened to Germany in the 1930s. Netherlands had all the exact same type of safeguards as we just discussed. That is, two doctors. In fact, you had to have incurable pain. It had to be voluntary. Right now, they've eliminated all those things, and right now they have these mobile euthanasia units. And they've just mobile euthanasia units, so you can call up. And the latest one was that a 47-year-old woman with two children called this mobile unit and said that she had tinnitus, that is, a high-pitched sound in her ears, and felt that she could no longer live with this and asked to be euthanized.
Unbelievable.
They euthanized her, but they were criticized because they did not get a psychiatric evaluation first.
Wow.
So they really have tremendous safeguards in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost as bad as what the Germans did.
Yeah.
All right. The second thing is in the our brothers to the north, Canada, as you know, they're having a tremendous amount of problems with their aging population and funding their health care.
Right.
And so what the Supreme Court in Canada in February of 2014 struck down all the anti-euthanasia laws, stating that not only can you have physician-assisted suicide, and that is a prescription, but people cannot prevent you from getting a lethal injection, which is euthanasia. So the active intervening of killing a person with a lethal dose of chemicals.
Wow.
Not only that, but they said that you cannot limit it to just 6 months for those who are incurably who are going to die from a terminal illness.
Yeah.
That it should be open for everything else, including psychiatric reasons and what they call existential reasons.
Oh, my God.
Maybe they...
I think we just lost a good doctor, but this is like, is this microphone on? Are we in the twilight zone? This is actually happening today. We have Father Brian on the line. I don't know if I can get Dr. Vince back on, but we just have another minute and a half of our show. And I just want to remind you, this was a difficult show to do because it's on such a downer topic, but it's about life, and we need to stand up for life. I mean, this is what we're called to as committed Christians, to stand up for what's right.
When we return, so please stay on the line.
Okay, we're having some issues. I think I'll tell the engineer to hold off. But we're going to finish up the show here. Dr. Vincent, I don't know if I'm going to get you back on, but I want to thank you again for taking your time. Very busy doctor, I got to tell you. See if I can get Father Brian on for a last-minute comment. Father Brian, welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show.
Oh, my God, have mercy on all of us.
Yeah.
I'm aghast at what I'm hearing.
Sure.
I had a question it's Dr. Vincent, correct?
Yeah, Dr. Vincent. But he unfortunately, he's not on the line, Father, so I just want to get your take. We have about a minute left here. Unfortunately, he had to run, but and we had some technical challenges. So, Father Brian, weren't you shocked by what you heard?
Well, I mean, this is greatly dismaying, but I tell you, I had a question for Dr. Vincent.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, when he was consulting with Pope John Paul II, did he encounter Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel, who is heavy into hyperbaric medicine? I would expect that they probably encountered each other.
Probably.
And I have Dr. Jolly as a guest coming up in the near future.
We do. We're working on him. Father Brian, we're out of time. Thanks again for your call. Hope to talk to you soon. This is the Terry and Jesse Show. Don't forget, we gave away Bishop Sheen's Life is Worth Living for Father's Day. It's Sunday, and I want you to talk about getting something for Dad, not another pair of socks. Give him Bishop Sheen's Life is Worth Living MP3 disc. It's $100 worth of material for free. I'm just asking you to make a donation to our radio ministry, which we need to get supplies and support for us. Call 877-526-2151 or go online to catholicrc.org. That's catholicrc.org, or call 877-526-2151. Tomorrow I have a special guest again. Tomorrow, same time, same station. Don't forget, go to our website, catholicrc.org. You can get a lot of free CDs and DVDs. May God richly bless you and your family.